On Sunday afternoon, how many of y'all love to watch NFL football? How many of y'all love to see the bone-crushing hits that happen every single game? Me too. And as a huge fan of the NFL, it's disappointing to see this most recent season players getting fined for these helmet-to-helmet hits. The fining is unnecessary. There shouldn't be any fining. First off, because it decreases the intensity of the game for the players and the fans as well. It takes chunks out of their bank account, and injuries are just part of the game. First off, when it comes to any sport, whether it be soccer, football, or anything, injuries are inevitable, whether it's a torn ACL, a broken bone, or a concussion. And until recently, concussions have been lurking in the background of football. Newsweek, an article in Newsweek actually criticizes the NFL, saying that they drug their feet with the issue of concussions in the past. And now they're finally standing up and taking a stand on it. Now, especially in football, players are getting bigger, the game's intensity is increasing, and concussions are more dangerous and common. They're so common that the NFL has decided to start fining the players for helmet-to-helmet contact that causes a concussion. So, should the NFL fine these players for hitting like this? Absolutely not. You know, helmets are there for a reason. But, however, concussions are not 100% preventable, no matter what technology is put into the design of these helmets. What this means is now, this rule makes the players feel like they have to change the way they play the game. How they have to decrease the intensity and the velocity they play with when doing a football game. And not only does that affect them, that affects us as fans too. I don't know about y'all, but I love the adrenaline of the game. I love seeing people getting knocked out. I get this huge rush of adrenaline and the suspense as well. And now all that's almost down the drain because this rule makes the NFL softer. And I'm not happy with that as a fan. I'm not happy, and I know the players are anything but happy. Daniel Phillips, who's a defensive lineman for the Washington Redskins, was interviewed in the Washington Post saying, simply, "We become a cupcake league," and he's absolutely right. Football is a physical sport, and in spite of all these serious concussions, injuries are still part of the game, and they cannot be avoided. You know, since the time I started playing sports until now, I was always told that injuries are part of the game. It's very rare to see an athlete go through their athletic career without an injury, whether it be a sprained ankle or something small all the way to a concussion. It's very rare to see. And the NFL players, know the risk that they're taking once they step on the field. They know that they're prone to injury every play that they take, but that's not going to stop them from playing the game. You know, the NFL is finding these players for these head-to-head concussion or contact, and some of these hits are totally unavoidable. One example is Josh Cribbs for the Cleveland Browns, a wide receiver. In one of the games this past season, caught a pass and was running upfield and saw that he was about to be tackled. So his reaction was to lower his head. And James Harrison, who was the Pittsburgh Steelers linebacker, was coming to tackle him. He didn't have enough time to react in that split second once he lowered his head. So, of course, they collided head on, and Josh Cribbs was diagnosed with concussion. After that game, James Harrison was fined $25,000 for a hit that he had no control over. The defense in football is based off reaction of what the offense does. They don't have time to hesitate or think what they're going to do. You know, and that's according to the Chicago Tribune. But there is one exception, and that's dirty playing. And we can't avoid it. You know, there are players out there who intentionally try to hurt people, and James Harrison is actually one of those players. You know, he's been quoted on SportsCenter saying, "I don't try to injure people. I just try to hurt them. I try to scare them." And that's why he's been fined over $125,000 in one season for illegal hits. Yet some of these hits weren't like intentionally trying to hurt somebody, just like this one. He was just trying to make a regular tackle, and the offensive player ducked his head, causing him to collide head on. But Finding over $125,000 is absolutely ridiculous. Money isn't the way to solve any problem. And I know that the NFL is finding these players, and I know they're doing it because they're trying to look after the safety of their players, but that doesn't mean finding them is necessary. There are other punishments that are better than fining. Like I said before, the NFL is trying to protect their players, but they're the one to blame for all these head injuries. What I said before about how they drug their feet, they didn't really take a stand on concussions until this season. And there was a article in the New York Times, a doctor by the name of Dr. Bennett Amalu, who's done brain research on retired NFL players that have had concussions. He said that if a player is diagnosed with a concussion, they should sit out the entire season in a couple of months at least. And before, the team doctors for all these NFL teams would just let the players sit out a couple of weeks, say that they just need the rest and no contact whatsoever. And there's one particular story from this past season that proves Dr. Amalu right. I don't know how many of y'all know Austin Collie, who was a wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts, but in one of the first games of the season, he was hit and diagnosed with concussion. Came back 2 weeks later, his head was still sensitive from the previous concussion. The first play he was in, he was knocked out again. That's 2 concussions in one season. That's not his fault. That's the team doctor's fault, letting him go back on the field that early when he should be sitting out the rest of the season or a couple of months at least. No matter how serious the concussion is, money won't change anything. There's an article in Forbes magazine saying how these fines for the NFL players are like mosquito bites. You get a few, they're still harmless in the end. They don't do anything. And the fines aren't going to stop the players from playing the game that they love. There could be more serious consequences than fining. What I think should be done is punishments need to be given that will hurt the individual and hurt the team as well. They're breaking the rule. Helmet contact is illegal in the NFL, but what I think should be done is suspension. It'll hurt the team. It'll hurt the player. It'll jeopardize his spot. No matter if the hit was illegal or legal, all NFL players shouldn't be fined shouldn't be fined for the way they hit other players. I think they should be suspended. We as fans love to see hard hits in football games. It gets our adrenaline rushing, and that's why it causes us to watch more and more games. Overall, the NFL shouldn't fine the players for these hits. Instead, they should at least suspend them for a couple of games. Because overall, money doesn't solve anything. And the only thing I can say to y'all is just don't let this rule change your love for the game. That's it.